Alright, it has been a while since I filmed an informative style video, and I figured now with all the different types of plopper style baits on the market, this would be a good video topic. And a few years ago, there was a huge craze when the Whopper plopper came out, and rightly so. It was an excellent bait, and it seems like ever since then, every year, a new plopper style bait comes out. But I think that's a really good thing because they all have their own little unique traits and specialize in catching bass in different conditions. So we're going to start off by going through each of these lures and talking about the pros and sometimes cons of fishing with them. So to start off with, the Whopper plopper. And you can tell it's the only bait in this entire group that has treble hooks, which is a pro and a con. It has the best hookup ratio, obviously, because it's got 6 hooks, but it also can't get into a lot of locations that these other baits can get into. You have to basically fish it only in open water. So we're going to chalk that up as a pro and a con. And another pro to this bait is that there's several different sizes. You have the 90, the 110, the 130, and then you also have at least a dozen different color patterns. So you can match the hatch. You can fish whatever size bait that are in the area that you're fishing. Man, what a nice fish. You threw that right on top of him, didn't you?
Yeah.
He hit it as soon as it hit the water. Alright, next up we're going to move to the Sprinker, and this lure came early last summer, and I feel like it is the big fish magnet. Out of all of these lures, I feel like it catches the biggest bass, so that's definitely a pro. And I also feel like another pro is that it makes the most natural plopping sound. I love the sound of that bait. Let's see how he reacts to this frog. I'm about to bring him by his nose right now. And let's take just a second and watch some of these blow-ups that we've gotten. Now, as far as the cons, the only con that I've seen is that a lot of times if you're fishing in an area with smaller fish, they strike the tail instead of the main body of the bait, and so therefore they don't get the hooks a lot. But if you're fishing in areas with big fish, that's something you don't necessarily have to worry about. They won't have any problem getting the entire body of that frog in their mouth. Alright, and next up is going to be the Lunker Hunt Prop Frog, and it released at ICAST in 2017. Not only does it have 1 but 2 ploppers on it, and a total of 3 hooks. You have your typical frog hook there, and it's got that added stinger hook for extra hookup ratio. So that is one of the big pros of fishing this bait. It's smaller in profile, so you can catch small and big bass with it. And then another feature I really like about it is it kind of puts up a rooster tail. Because it has 2 of the ploppers, it seems like they work together and kick up one big rooster tail back behind it. This Lunker Hunt frog truly is a perfect frog for this scenario. We've got that high wind, and all it's doing is just sitting there churning, kicking up, making that perfect sound, both of those feet going. Perfect. Now, the only con I found with fishing this bait is that when you're fishing in heavy vegetation, sometimes you'll get grass and weeds right there, and it makes it a little bit high maintenance because your plopper feet will no longer plop like they're supposed to. But overall, great bait. Alright, next up on the list is the Booyah Toad Runner, and this bait released early this year and is very similar to the Sprinkler Frog. You can tell the similarities in the tail, but the first pro that I want to talk about is the Booyah Toad Runner's tail. You can actually take it and bend it and change the pitch of the tail. It'll actually change the sound as it's going through the water and how much water it kicks up. So that is a very unique feature. It has a little metal bar that runs down the tail there that will bend as you need it to bend and give you that perfect pitch. Look at that. A thing of beauty. Now, one of the only negatives that I found is the hookup ratio, and I kind of contribute that to the tail being clear. I think a lot of times when that thing's moving through the water, the fish can't see the tail and their mouths come up to hit the body right here, and I think that it just kind of wraps that tail up and they never can get the hook in their mouth. Next time I go out, I'm going to dye this tail something like chartreuse or a dark color, and we'll see if that gives us a better hookup ratio. So a pro is that it has adjustable pitch and different sounds. It has really good color patterns, and one of the cons is that the hookup ratio is not quite as good as your sprinkler frogs because of the color of the tail. So this new plopper frog kit is a huge pro in my opinion, because we all have our favorite frogs that we like to fish. So we've got a box full of frogs. We got one tied on in the morning. We can take it out, fish lily pads, walk it, do things that we would typically do. And then maybe a couple hours after daylight, when the wind picks up, we just add this little frog kit trailer onto the end of it, and then maybe go fish a windy bank. But you can also fish it as a frog. So you could walk it and it'll have that extra little kicking and that plopper sound. So this is going to be a killer product. Something I'm going to take and spend a whole video fishing with it, and kind of going over the strengths of it, the type of frogs that I like to use it on. But right now I can already tell that this little Terminator Walking Frog Jr. is going to be a perfect combination for it. Now the only negative that I find with this is that it's clear just like the Toad Runner tail was clear. So I felt like I missed a lot of strikes because of the way the design is. So I'm thinking about trying to add a stinger hook on back here, kind of similar to the lunker hunt, to see if we can get a little bit better hookup ratio. Alright, now last up on the list is the new Jackal Grinch, and it hasn't released yet, but it should be out any day now. And this bait, although it's a plopper bait, it is completely different than all the others. I haven't fished it very much, but one thing I did notice is it sits a little bit lower profile in the water, so most of the body is down in the water and the tail is just on the surface. So it gives it a really good shad profile. While all these others look similar to a frog, Whopper Plopper and the Grinch give off that shad profile. So one thing I'd like to mention, these 4 baits are good for fishing in the summertime. When that water's warm, a bass's metabolism gets really high and they're willing to do those big blow-ups where they come all the way out of the water chasing that frog. Now this style bait is not what you want to throw in the summer. It sits down lower and it's going to catch those fish that are a little bit sluggish and that don't want to really come blow the bait out of the water. They just want to come up and suck it under. So I would fish this Grinch in the spring and fall when you have school and shad and those type of conditions where the bass are a little bit lethargic, and you'll get more bites with this shad profile. And then fish these 4 lures during the hot summer months when the fish are up in the grass and lily pads. And then the Whopper Plopper is kind of a year-round bait, but you can only fish it in open water. Alright, now we're going to do a quick recap. So the best hookup ratio baits go to the Lunker Hunt Prop Frog and the River to Sea Whopper Plopper. So if you're just looking to do some fun fishing, or you're fishing with kids and you don't want to get out there and have any missed topwater strikes, these are your 2 baits. And the award for the most versatility goes to the Booyah Toad Runner and the River to Sea Frog Kit. And with the Toad Runner, just being able to change the pitch on that tail is a huge plus. Plus they have a big variety of colors. And with the River to Sea Frog Kit, you can't get much more versatile than that. You can make any frog that's in your tackle box a plopper style frog. Now these 4 on the right you should be throwing this time of year in the summertime around lily pads and vegetation. These 2 on the left you should be throwing in the fall whenever bass start chasing school and shad. Now if I had to pick my favorite overall plopper lures, it would come down to the Sprinkler Frog and the Whopper Plopper. The Sprinkler is the big fish magnet and it has just as good of plopping sound as the Whopper Plopper. And the River to Sea is the original plopper. With the added hookup ratio, these are 2 fish catching machines. But you can't go wrong with any of these plopper style baits. I'm sure there's going to be more that come out in the future. Can't wait to get my hands on them. Let's take a quick second, go back and watch some of these big bass blow ups on the plopper style baits. Now we have all of these lures in stock at BamaFrogs.com with the exception of the Grinch, and it'll be coming here in the next couple of weeks. Thank you all for watching. Leave a comment below if you think I left something out with one of these baits, or if you've seen a feature or a pro or a con that you saw that I didn't mention in the video. But hope you all enjoyed it, and we'll see you all next time.